Welcome to Binge Breakthrough, the podcast designed to help you finally break through the barriers that keep you stuck feeling out of control around food. I'm Master Certified Coach Jane Pilger, and I want you to know that no matter how long you've been struggling or what you've tried, food freedom is possible, and I'm here to show you how. After years of therapy, eating disorders treatment, restrictive diets, and reading all the books, I was still stuck in the on-again, off-again cycle of restricting and binging until I was able to see it all from a new perspective that changed everything. Each week, I will share the strategies, tools, and mindset that allowed me to overcome my decades-long battle with binge eating. Your journey to body trust starts now. Let's dive in. Hello, trusted listener. Welcome to Binge Breakthrough. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are listening to this podcast for a reason. I trust that you're going to hear something today that is insightful and impactful on your journey with food. So if you are listening to this episode when it airs live, it is actually Christmas Day 2024. And I thought, what better gift can I give to you? I actually think all of these podcast episodes are a gift. This whole podcast really is my gift to you. But I thought, well, what other gift can I give? I am going to give you the gift of reading you a chapter from my new book. My new book is called The Binge Eating Breakthrough. And in last week's episode, I told the story about the book, my initial inspiration, motivation to write the book, what it was like for me to write the book. And I kind of really went through the table of contents and just shared a little bit of that so that you could get a feel for what went into the idea, what went into the writing of the book, how I kind of created and organized and outlined the book. And today what I want to do is share a specific chapter from the book so you can kind of hear what it's like. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast and you resonate with this podcast, you find this podcast useful at all, you will love this book. It is very much a lot of the concepts that I share on this podcast. There are also concepts in this book that I have not talked about on the podcast. When I wrote this book, I really held nothing back. Some people write books that are like, well, I'm just going to put a little bit of information here, but I'm really going to keep all my good stuff for the people who pay me. That is not the case here at all. I held nothing back. This book is everything that you need to end your binge eating. If you are not a binger, but you do not feel peaceful around food, this book will give you what you need to create the relationship with food that you truly want for yourself. So I want to read a chapter to you. The chapter that I'm going to read is, chapter 9, and it's called How Did I Get Here? Making Sense of Your Path. And I want to just give you a quick, I just want to orient you to where this is in the book. So the book is broken down into 4 sections. I go over this in a little bit more detail in last week's episode. But in section number 2, it's the 4 pillars to cultivating peace with food. And those 4 pillars are clarity, connection, compassion, and confidence. And this chapter that I'm going to read to you is in pillar number 1. It's within the clarity pillar. So the chapters in the pillar of clarity are, why do I behave this way? Understanding the brain. How did I get here? Making sense of your path. This is the chapter I'm going to read to you. And then who do I want to be as an eater? Your identity. All right. So now that I've just oriented you a little bit to where this comes in the book, I just want to read you this chapter. How did I get here? Making sense of your path. Now that we understand how our brains work, let's take a moment to look back at our personal journeys. Understanding how we got here is a crucial step in gaining clarity. It's not about dwelling on the past, but about making sense of our experiences so we can move forward with greater understanding and compassion. My story. Let me share my own journey to illustrate this process of making sense of one's path. I was a very sick baby with a lot of digestive issues. My mother was unable to soothe me, which was challenging for her. This affected our attachment, a topic I now explore with my clients. In my family, we didn't learn how to process or allow emotions. We didn't talk about feelings or navigate conflict together. When someone was upset, we would retreat. I often went to my room and slammed the door, only to come out the next day, acting as if nothing was wrong. As a young child, I have a distinct memory of hiding in the pantry, eating brown sugar by the spoonful. I don't remember many details, but I remember not wanting to get caught and how good it tasted. The summer before my senior year in high school, I went to Paraguay for 8 weeks on a mini Peace Corps type of excursion. I gained 20 pounds in 8 weeks, and with the rapid weight gain came dark red stretch marks on my hips and breasts. I was an avid volleyball player. Our uniform bottoms were called bun huggers. Think thick cotton granny panties. This meant my new stretch marks were visible for everyone to see. This marked the start of my first effort to lose weight. I had a lot of shame and hatred for my body. I started severely restricting my calories, going to the gym to lose weight, tracking my calories in a spreadsheet, and reading Clean Eating magazine. I also became a vegetarian. Then I went away to college. I tried out for the volleyball team, but didn't get selected. I was away from my family and friends and making decisions on my own. In October, I received a care package from a church I had attended once, a box full of candy bars. I remember being upset by the package. They didn't even know me, and I had felt very ostracized the one time I went. I sat down and ate the entire box. It would be the first time I slammed the door on myself, and also the first time I used food when I simply wasn't able to use my words. As the binges continued, I was very worried about gaining weight. I would alternate between eating lean cuisine and cottage cheese one day and binging on ice cream, macaroni and cheese, baked goods, and cereal the next. My internal dialogue was terrible. When I binged, I would dissociate because I didn't want to hear what I was saying to myself. And when I came back to myself, all I wanted to do was fix it. I tried to fix it by throwing up a few times. I'm grateful that vomiting has never come easy to me. If it had, I absolutely would have become bulimic. I tried laxatives once. That was enough. I didn't want to be forced to stay home, so I decided that wasn't worth it. I continued to count calories when I wasn't binging and stopped counting when I was. I had times where I felt more in control and times when I felt out of control. When I met my now husband, I managed my food for quite some time. I was in love and focused. When we got engaged, I was very intent on being as lean as possible for the wedding. Sometime in the year or so after we got married, my binge eating really escalated. Up until this time, I hadn't told anyone about my struggles with food. People would have seen the weight fluctuations, but I hadn't actually told anyone about it. Years later, I was seeing an eating disorders therapist who convinced me to enter intensive outpatient therapy at a local eating disorders treatment center. I graduated IOP and I started to help other women struggling with food through a weight loss membership program. I was determined to help others and became committed to turning my pain into my purpose. I got certified as a life coach and learned even more about the power of the mind and how our thoughts shape our reality. I believed I could just think my way out of binge eating. When I started my own business of helping others, I wasn't able to explain why my binge eating returned, but it did. I felt so much shame and incongruence talking to people about their binge eating while I was binge eating in secret myself. Then I learned about the nervous system, trauma, and how we heal. I learned how to create safety and trust with food, with myself, and with my body. Now, I still binge on occasion. It's rare and totally different than it used to be. I eat way less and recover way faster. Minutes now versus hours, days, weeks, or even months. I used to be so worried when I would binge and would feel like a fraud. Then I decided I would only be a fraud if I pretended it didn't happen. So when it does, I share it with my clients. I process it with them so they can see how it works, how I make sense of it, how I learn from it, and how I move on. I might record a video the next day explaining what happened, telling the full story and letting them see exactly what my process is. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, there is always something to learn for me and for my clients. Looking back, I can see how it all makes sense. I wasn't securely attached to my mother, so I attached to food. I had very little emotional capacity. I didn't learn how to navigate emotions or conflict. I was on a very restrictive diet after returning from Paraguay. At college, I was away from my primary caregivers. I had big feelings and I didn't know what to do with them. And once I started binging, I didn't talk to anyone about it. I had a lot of shame and judgment, and I continued the restrict binge cycle. Just reading this, I think, that makes so much sense. Of course, I started binging, and of course, I didn't stop until I was able to address these areas. And of course, it took time. Your story. Now it's your turn to reflect on your own journey. Here are some questions to consider. When did you first notice issues with food? What was happening in your life at that time? How did your family approach food and emotions when you were growing up? Have you experienced any significant life changes or traumas that coincided with changes in your eating habits? What methods have you tried to change your eating habits in the past? How did those methods work for you? Remember, the goal here isn't to blame yourself or others. The goal is to understand yourself. Every behavior makes sense in context, and binge eating is no exception. By understanding your path, you can start to see your behaviors not as character flaws, but as adaptations, ways you learned to cope with difficult experiences or emotions. Making sense of it all. As you reflect on your journey, you might start to see patterns or connections you never noticed before. You might realize that your binge eating started as a way to cope with stress, or as a rebellion against strict food rules, or as a way to feel in control when other areas of your life felt chaotic. This understanding is powerful. It allows you to replace shame and self-blame with compassion and curiosity. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you can ask, "How does this make sense given my experiences?" Remember the 8 reasons for binge eating we discussed earlier. Number 1, shame and judgment. Number 2, restriction. Number 3, dysregulated nervous system. 4, disconnection from the body. 5, coping mechanism. 6, attempt to control. 7, habit. 8, negative self-talk. As you reflect on your journey, you might recognize some or all of these factors at play. This reflective recognition is the first step towards change. Understanding life transitions and food challenges. As you reflect on your journey with food, it's important to recognize that challenges with eating often arise during significant life transitions. These periods of change can create stress, uncertainty, and a need for coping mechanisms, which for many people can manifest as changes in eating patterns. Here are some common life transitions that can trigger or exacerbate food challenges. Teenage years. Adolescence is often when many first develop concerns about body image and eating habits. Hormones begin to shift during puberty and the body begins to take on a new shape. Hormones and love interests aren't the only things happening during this time. Individuals have more autonomy in their food choices. Peer influence becomes increasingly important, and there is often a sense of trying to figure out who you are in this world. All of this can lead to body dissatisfaction and attempts to control food intake. For many, this period lays the groundwork for their future relationship with food in their body. First year of college. For many, like me, food issues first appear during the freshman year of college. This is often the first time we're away from our primary caregivers and facing full responsibility for every decision, including what and when to eat. The stress of new academic challenges, social pressures, and newfound independence can all contribute to changes in eating habits. Perimenopause and menopause. For many women, the hormonal shifts and body changes that occur during perimenopause and menopause can trigger or worsen food struggles. The physical and emotional changes during this time can be overwhelming, and food might become a way to cope with these changes or attempt to control a body that feels out of control. Major life changes. Other significant life events can also impact our relationship with food. These might include starting a new job or career change, getting married or going through a divorce, having a baby or becoming an empty nester, moving to a new city or country, experiencing a loss or grief. Understanding these patterns can help you make sense of your own journey. If you notice that your food challenges began or intensified during a period of significant change in your life, know that this is a common experience. Your struggles are likely a natural response to life changes, not a sign of personal failure or weakness. Recognizing these transition points can also be empowering. It helps you see that your eating behaviors didn't come out of nowhere. They developed in response to your life circumstances. And just as they developed, they can also unwind as you learn new ways of coping and caring for yourself. As you continue to explore your own path, consider these questions. Can you identify any significant life transitions that coincided with changes in your eating habits? How did these transitions affect other areas of your life beyond just your relationship with food? What coping mechanisms besides food were available to you during those times? How might understanding these connections change how you view your eating behaviors? Remember, the goal here isn't to blame your past experiences for your current struggles, but to understand them with compassion. By recognizing the role that life transitions have played in your relationship with food, you can begin to see your behaviors not as character flaws, but as adaptations, ways you learned to cope with significant changes in your life. Practical application. Take some time to reflect on your journey with food. In your journal, complete the following sentences. My earliest memory of food being more than just nourishment is. The first time I remember feeling out of control was. When I think about my relationship with food over the years, I notice the pattern of. The ways my relationship with food has served me, even if they're no longer helpful, are. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing about food and eating, it would be. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers. The goal is to explore your experiences with curiosity and compassion. You don't have to spend much time in the past, but it can be helpful to understand how it impacts your relationship with food today. Moving forward with clarity. Understanding how you got here doesn't mean you're stuck here. In fact, this clarity is what allows you to move forward. Now that you can see the bigger picture, you're better equipped to address the root causes of your binge eating, not just the symptoms. In the next section, we'll look at where you want to go from here. But for now, I encourage you to sit with this newfound understanding. Be gentle with yourself as you process these insights. Remember, you're not broken. You are a human being who has been doing the best you could with the tools you had available. So that is chapter 9 from the Binge Eating Breakthrough book. There's so much to explore in just this one chapter. It's so rich. It's so full of information. This entire book is rich and full of information. If you get this book, if you do the work, if you answer the questions, if you apply what you are learning, you will have a breakthrough. You will transform your relationship with food. This is the book I wish I had. I just hope that it is a gift to you, that it is helpful. I hope that even just listening to this chapter was a gift to you today. Whether you are listening to this around Christmas of 2024 or anytime, this book is my gift to you. And if you want to return a gift to me, you can do it by sharing this book, by reviewing this book, by letting me know the impact, how it impacted you. That is how you can return the gift to me. I will put a link to get the book in the show notes, and know that the audiobook and a companion workbook will be coming in early 2025. I'm excited to bring those to you as well. All right, that's what I have for you this week. I'll see you next time. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.